Okay. So let's talk about this. So we have created shape files one way. We have imported tabular data with spatial data associated with it, with latitude and longitude data, imported that and created a shape file from that. We can do that. We know how to do that, right? That's one way that you can create a shape file. Another way that you may want to create a shape file is you may actually want to draw your shapefile on your map before you go out in the field. And so thinking about how this would look, like if you were conducting a scientific study, a lot of times what happens is you and your team, whoever it is, your colleagues, you sit down and you select at least some general boundary of site, of where you want to go on your computer before you go out in the field. It's very rare that you just go out in the field and just are like, boop, this is where I'm going, right? It's a little bit different if you're doing like a bird point count survey or something like that. You're like, I'm going to go to this region and then I'm going to mark a point on my GPS. But a lot of times you can't do that. You have to create transects ahead of time. You have to create routes ahead of time. For example, for my PhD work, we had to do a lot of boat travel to places where we had never been before, all over the Gulf of Mexico. And so we had to draw those routes um, first and then import those routes into our GPS so that we weren't literally wandering around in the swamp waiting to get eaten by alligators, right? We had to draw that down. We had to provide people with a map of where we were for safety, and we had to be able to get where we needed to go. Um, so this is going to be sort of thinking about that. So, conducting, creating, designing your own study plan, right? And the thing you have to do so much front end work for stuff like this. And I really think that folks that have taken this class end up doing better in capstone if they remember any of it, because capstone, basically what we ask you to do is we ask you to go out as a team, create a team, and collect some data. And you really, really have to think about this on the front end. You have to make very detailed data sheets. You have to print those data sheets. You have to know how to get to your site. That means that you have had to pick your site out beforehand, and you have to have those sites loaded onto your GPS device. Or if you know that you have cell phone service, you have to have it loaded on one of the apps that we're going to use today. So one thing that I will say is, particularly in remote areas, always, always, always bring paper data sheets with you, right? Like a Garmin is great, and a Garmin will get you really, really far in terms of like putting a point on a map. But in terms of actually like collecting data and writing stuff down, I have gotten, we were out in the field and everything blew away or everything got wet. And so I had receipts from like my backpack, and I was like writing down field notes on those receipts. So always bring extra pens, always bring extra paper, always bring data sheets, always, always, always. Do not ever go out in the field without paper. Um, and so what we're going to be working with some apps that require cell phone towers, and they require your cell phones to work properly, and they require everything to be nice and fast. And it doesn't always work like that. It often does not work like that. But increasingly, a lot of companies, they know where they're going. They have access to cell phone data, to cell phone towers. They have great coverage, and so a lot of companies do like you to have working knowledge of these programs. And so this is a good class, and this will give you a little bit of experience using something called Survey 123, which is an ESRI program. So ESRI is the company, remember, that makes ARC. And we'll give you a little bit of experience using Google Maps. So Google Maps is super duper cool free software it's a little clunkier, the navigation between like the app on your phone and using it on the computer. But if you don't have any money and you don't have any university affiliations or a private firm affiliation, you're going to use Google Maps. So that's what we're going to get to. Okay, so usually you're going to select your sites remotely before you go out in the field. And so thinking about like when we're going to be working with that bird point data set that we use the first day, on lab 1. And so Dr. Long had some boundary conditions for like where, her site was, and she went out with some of her graduate students. Everybody had a GPS and they kind of walked around as long as they stayed in these boundary conditions. And so they had basically a polygon, right, that they knew where the edges were, and then they marked points within that polygon. But a lot of times you will need to select sites remotely, and a lot of times that ends up being a transect or a line. And then you walk along that line and you sample either randomly or regularly on the line or some distance away from that line or something like that, right? It depends on if you're looking at plants. It depends on what size of plants, what assemblage of plants. It depends on if you're looking for mammals or birds or herps or whatever you're looking for, right? You have a specific study design that is associated with that organism or that situation or that ecosystem, right? Like, but you have to do some work online first, right? So we need to do our GIS work first, figure out where we're going, figure out what software is going to work, figure out who your team is, what do they know how to do, who do you trust, make sure that figuring out what level of accuracy you need in terms of like spatial accuracy, and then what level of accuracy will you get from your colleagues. And so those of you that go on and you end up working on a graduate school project, you go work on your PhD, you're going to have student workers, and you will know very quickly what they're able to do and what they're not able to do. But usually it takes you sending them out into the field to figure that out, right? And so speaking from personal experience, where I think over the course of my program, I've had a lot of student workers, and they're always like, yeah, for sure, absolutely, I got this, I got this, I got this. And then the second they get on the field, it becomes abundantly clear, like, no, ma'am, you do not got this. So just plan for the worst, right? Plan for the worst, hope for the best, kind of everywhere. So the first lesson in field data collection is to make a paper data sheet. And this paper data sheet will a lot of times look like a table, right? And so some very, very critical things that you will have on there is you will have the date, you might have the time if that's important, you are going to have some sort of a site ID, and you're going to have some initials for that person who is collecting the data. Because if that person that is collecting the data, if you are out in the field and you're collecting bird IDs and somebody, and you're out in Southwest Louisiana and somebody comes back and they're like, oh my God, there are spotted owls all over this swamp. It's amazing. And so you keep getting these species codes that are like spotted owls, and you're like, this person has lost their mind, but you don't know who that is. So you need to go back and you need to have that conversation with them and vet that data. So you must have date, you must have time, you must have initials, and then whatever else you need, like any possible bit of information that you will need must have its own section on this data sheet, right? And then to make your life a little bit easier on the back end, think about how you would transform, because you're going to have somebody go out in the field and they're going to fill out this data sheet. That data sheet is then going to have to be entered into a CSV. And so a lot of times where you can start is you can actually set up your CSV, set up your Excel spreadsheet ahead of time, right? And so you have your rows, those will be your individual observations, and then you have your fields, and your fields are going to be like all this stuff, right? So your pH, total dissolved sediments, this is probably electrical conductivity or something, dissolved oxygen. So each of these little data points would have a field, a column that's associated with it, right? So every data sheet is going to have some sort of an associated table, and that associated table can then be exported into a shapefile feature class, right? So thinking about how really putting the effort in on the front end and making sure that all of this makes sense and that it's as easy as possible, it's as foolproof as possible, And there's no such thing as totally foolproof, but if you, put every single little thing that you would possibly need in your data sheet, right? And so considering, what this would look like if it was plants, what would this look like if it was a system, what would this look like if it was organisms, thinking about all of the pieces of information that you must have and making sure that they're here, and making sure that you could hand it to anybody, right? You could hand it to literally anybody in our department, and just be like, here, you're coming out with me, you're helping me, you're going to help me in the field because I need help and you're getting paid by somebody. Let's go. You go this way, I go this way, and you should come back and all of these sections should be filled out. So today I have this highlighted in red. I don't think it's highlighted in red in your files, but flag this because this is going to be really helpful for not only map assignment 2, but it's also going to be helpful for you when you are making your story map, like this process. So I'm not going to go through this because we're going to go through this slide by slide in a second, but you can always direct yourself back to here to get some good, just be like, oh God, how do I do this? Like, how do I actually make a shapefile? And then how do I get it into ArcGIS Online? And then how do I get it into field maps? And then blah, 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 blah. This all makes sense in a minute. Flag this. This could actually be at the end of the presentation. That might make more sense. Okay, so let's start with lab. What do I do first? Somebody tell me. I will wait. As soon as I can get my computer to stop being frozen.
Create a folder for the lab.
Create a folder for the lab. You got it. 100%. Okay. So, come on, just move over. Here. Come on. Come on, anybody. There you go. Okay, so who are you people? You are an R&R 2003. Here we are. Here we are. Okay. I'm gonna make a folder. Folder is lab 3. Okay. So now I'm gonna open up. I don't notice there's no data in Moodle. I don't have any data for you to do anything with in Moodle. I'm assuming that you still have your zipped bird points file in lab 1. If you do not still have or can find that zipped bird points file in lab 1, you're going to need to back it out, go into Moodle, go into lab 1 and download that bird points file. So actually the very first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this bird points file here that's in my lab 1 into my new folder that I just made, into lab 3. So I'm going to right click on that. And so there's a couple different ways that you could do that. You could just drag it over, expand this in your documents and drag it over, but I'm just going to copy it. And then I'm going to go and I'm going to hop over to the right folder. And I'm going to paste that zipped file in here. Okay. Just so that it's in the right spot. I'm going to go ahead and extract it. And I'm going to name this bird points, and I'm going to name this bird points like B or something, right? Just so that I could differentiate it between the other bird points folder that I have somewhere else. I'm going to name this bird points B and go extract. And then just so that we remember what she looks like, right? This is what she looks like. All of these files have to be included for a shapefile to work. Okay, so that's done. Now I can go ahead and open up Arc Pro. It should be getting easier at this point. This stuff is like, make a folder, extract your stuff, find your stuff, know where everything is. It's getting easier. Right? Here. Folder open. I'm just looking at the chat. Steven says folder. Jorge says start ArcGIS. Those two things could have both happened, right? Those are two good ways to start, right? Any minute now, ArcPro is gonna open. Okay, and so we're gonna open up a new map, right? We could actually go in and open up lab 1, but let's just, for good practice, let's just open up a new map. And this is going to be lab 3. And I'm naming these lab 3 projects at this point because we've got lots of things named lab 3. And I'd be able to figure that out via the file extension. Those are already in your lab 1 folder. Your bird points, you should find those in your lab 1 folder, and you just copy and paste them into your lab 3 folder. If you can't find your lab 1 folder, then you're going to have to go back into Moodle and download them again from lab 1. Okay. So now that we have ArcPro open, we'll go to catalog and we're going to connect to a folder. So remembering you can go up here, you can go to add folder, or we can just right click and go add folder connection, which is what I'm going to do here anyway. And let it load. And in my R&R 3004, fall 2024, here's my lab 3 folder. I'm going to connect to that. And then if you expand that, you should have your bird points _B, and then you have your bird points shapefile. Should I just wait a second? Is everybody here? Does anybody have any questions? I can just wait a sec, unless we're all here.
How do you connect the folder again?
You can right click on folders in Arc Catalog, or you can go up to add folder.
Thank you.
All right, everybody here? Do we need minutes? Okay. I haven't heard anything, so I'm gonna assume we're all here. Okay. So let's go ahead and pull the shapefile in. So just drag it over into your table of contents. Of course, remembering that she needs to go on top of these bigger maps, right? She needs to go above all of these world topographic maps. And then it's going to zoom right into this layer. All right, let's just remember what our coordinate system is for this bird points file, right? So we're going to right click on this. We're going to go to properties. And this gives everybody else a chance to catch up if you're still pulling stuff in. Go to source. This is where it lives. It is a real shape file. It's named bird points B, spatial reference. It has a projected coordinate system. This projected coordinate system is NAD 83, UTN zone 14 north. So Louisiana, we've been working with WGS 1984, zone 15 north, all right? This is 14 because it's in a different state. All right, a different area. The geographic coordinate system is NAD 83. The projected coordinate system is UTM zone 14. Remembering, of course, that all projected coordinate systems have a geographic coordinate system embedded in their code, right? Embedded in them. Okay, so that's what this guy looks like. Now, what we want to do here in this example, what we're going to do is we're going to draw a polygon. We're going to create a polygon shapefile that is around these bird points, right? For no other reason than it's easy to do, right? There are going to be other situations where you will need to draw lines, you will need to create routes, you will need to draw, points and shapefiles and all of these things. We can do all, if you can do this, you can do anything, all right, with this. So here we go. So you're going to come over here to your lab 3 folder, and you are going to right click on that folder. And down here, you are going to go, you're going to go to new, and notice all of the stuff that pops up under new. We can create a nested folder. We could make a geodatabase. We could add a Python toolbox, which is like coding stuff. You could add a toolbox, which is like you have this special suite of tools that you're going to use a lot in this project. That's for like more advanced stuff. The one that I want you guys to cruise down to is this baby called shapefile, new shapefile. And so you're just going to click that. And a new pane is going to open up that says geoprocessing. All right. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to look and check and see where this is, right? Basically, what we're doing here is we're creating an empty placeholder. We're telling ArcGIS, I am going to make a shapefile. This shapefile is going to be a point, a line, or a polygon. And this shapefile lives here and it has this coordinate system. There's actually no data associated with it yet, right? We're just kind of creating the space for it so that then we can go in and we can add data. So feature class location, it's going into this lab 3 folder. I know this is going in the right place, but we can check anyway just to make sure, especially if you've had organizational trouble, which a lot of folks do, right? We have organizational trouble. Let's make sure that it's going into the right place. So it's going in this lab 3 folder. And notice we're not naming anything. It's just asking us for location. So there's nothing we would need to type in here. We just go lab 3. Okay, right? It's in the right place. Now we're going to name it. So let's name this birds poly for birds polygon. And look at the geometry type. It defaulted to polygon. We'll go ahead and select that drop down and look at the options. We can do points, we can do multi-points, we can do polygons, we can do polylines, we can do something called a multi-patch. We're primarily going to be focused on point, polygon, and polyline, right? Polyline's just a line. So in this example, we are making a polygon. It could literally be anything though. All right, when we get to the editing lab, we'll create some points within a shapefile that already exists. But if you wanted to make points, you would just select point. If you wanted to make lines, you would just select line, right? But you can't change your mind later. You have to do this all over again. So it is a polygon. This is asking for different spatial data beyond like just a flat map. So it's like, does it have height? Does it have shading? Does it have any of these? This is rare that we'll use this. So we're not going to mess with any of these, right? We are going to mess with coordinate system. You should be able to just select your drop-down menu and you're going to have 2 options for the coordinate system. You have whatever coordinate system your current map is in, which is not always the same as your data sets that you have in your map. Oftentimes it is. We're going to just select bird points. All right. We've checked it. We know it has a projected coordinate system that works. We're just going to select bird points and notice it's going to populate this drop-down box with NAD 83 UTM zone 14 north. Okay. Notice the naming convention here. Right? This is why I never have any spaces in anything that I name. I always have like all these underscores instead. Arc and computer programming it's really fussy about the way that things are named. So generally try to avoid weird characters, generally try to avoid spaces. So this is ready to rock. I'm just gonna go run. And then it's gonna show up over here in my table of contents. It's also gonna show up in Arc catalog, right? So now I have this birds poly shapefile, but there's nothing here, right? So if you open up the attribute table, it has an attribute table, but that attribute table is empty, right? It doesn't have any data. So because we haven't done anything, all we did was create this empty space where then we can go in and we can draw a polygon on our map. All right, close out this attribute table and let me do a check-in. How's everybody doing? Everybody here? All right. Cool beans. Anybody not here?
I'm here, but I don't see the birds poly shapefile showing up in my catalog pane, but it
I need
is
to
contents pane.
refresh it. So you can go up here to lab 3, right click and go to refresh. And see if it shows up then.
Okay, yeah, it did. Thank you.
Great, no problem. Okay. Everybody good? I'm gonna move on. Okay.
Hey, for the shapefile, were we supposed to select the bird points as the coordinate system
You
for the
got it.
new one?
Yep. Okay. So now let's make stuff. So this is the first time that you guys are going to use the editor or the editing tool in ArcGIS. And the editing tool is great, but one thing I want to make abundantly clear is if you do edit something, this is one of the reasons why I always make copies of all of my files, is because if I screw something up, I always want to make sure that there's an original file living somewhere untouched, right? And in this case, we not only have the original file in its zipped form in this lab folder, but we also have the original file zipped up in this lab folder, right? So we're fine. We can edit this one to death, but I'm also not working on this bird points file today. I'm working on this empty thing that I just made. But we're going to go up here to our ribbon. We're going to go to edit. And under edit, you're going to see a bunch of cool things show up. But notice what is not showing up, the stuff that's grayed out over here. We don't have an option to save. We don't have an option to discard. But once you start doing stuff, you will, right? You always have to you always have the option to discard your edits if you've screwed something up, or save your edits. And this editing tool works just like the selection tool works. And what I mean by that is whenever you edit something in the map, that thing is also going to be edited in the attribute table, with the exception of latitude and longitude. That's not true. So this isn't true. Okay, never mind. That's not true. If you edit something in the attribute table, it is going to change. That's not true. Never mind. I'm not going to say anything. You always need to save your edits, but it's always going to ask you. Okay. So what we have all of these tools, these kind of handy tools that we could grab. There's a merge tool that's really easy. So if you had a bunch of different polygons that were like, separating habitats into these different types and you wanted to combine them, you would use that merge. If you had a bunch of habitats that were combined and you wanted to split them, you would split. These are just some common tools that we can use for in editor. But what we're going to use right here is we're going to go to create. And so you're going to select create, and a new pane is going to open up. And it's asking me, where do you want to create features? Do you want to create features in this bird points shape file? And so what that would mean is if I selected that, which you totally could, if I selected this, I would only be able to add points because this is a point shapefile, right? It is all of the everything that the software understands about shapefiles is I'm separating these into like, you know, collections of features that are similar, right? Points go with points, polygons go with polygons, lines go with lines. We're not doing this. We're going to fool around with the new file, the new shape file that we just made. So just go ahead and select that and look at all the different options that show up. The default option is this little polygon feature. And so this is saying, do you want to create a polygon feature? We have a lot of different things that we could do. We could create circles and squares, we could create squiggly lines, all this kind of stuff. We're just going to go, it's going to default, whichever one is highlighted is the one that you're using. So we're right on track. We're just keeping it really simple. And notice what happens to your cursor when you move it onto the screen. I've got these little crosshairs now. And this is kind of cool because these crosshairs, you don't have to be super precise. If you get anywhere close to one of these points, it's going to take you, it's going to like automatically add a vertex, a point there that's like the vertices of your polygon, right? And so this is called snapping. This is the thing that the software does where it's like, you know, depending on the scale that you're at, it might be difficult to get right on the edge of this point. It might be difficult to get, you know, right exactly where you want to be, right? But so I'm just going to go to this point, but I totally don't have to. I could easily start up here. So I'm going to start at this northernmost point and I'm going to select that. And I'm just going to draw a polygon that encircles all my points. And so I had to zoom out a little bit so that I could see that southernmost point. And notice it's going to snap me to that guy. I'm going to go up here. And if you wanted to draw like a boundary along the river or a boundary along the road, that might make a lot of sense, right? Think about, you know, what makes sense in terms of drawing your shape files. Like this doesn't make a lot of sense except that we're learning how to do something. And so I'm going to right click there. And then, so it's still trying to draw, right? But see how that last point I just made is in red? You can undo stuff, but if you want to finish it, you just go up here to where you just were and you're just going to double click and it's done. Right? Okay. And obviously I didn't get all of my points in this polygon, but it's fine. This is just
How do I undo if I want to undo?
You could go to you can usually just click like right click and there's like an undo option. You can go escape, you can go delete, or you can go up here and just like finish it and then just go to discard.
Okay.
There's lots of different ways to do it, but like for us, we could go right click. I can't, but so I just right clicked, but there would be an option where you could like get out of there if you wanted to. But the one thing I also want to mention is that see how this guy is highlighted in this bright kind of cerulean blue? What does that mean? What does this color mean? If you see anything on your map that's this color, what should that indicate to you immediately?
It's selected.
Right. It's selected. And if it's selected and you don't want it to be selected, this is going to cause all kinds of problems, right? So we're going to go up here to clear. Now it is no longer selected. Notice I still have these little crosshairs on here, right? That's because I'm still actively editing. Once I go up to save or discard, right? Let's say that I don't like those. I can go to discard and I can just discard the whole thing. Can I? I thought I could. Oh, that's because this guy showed up on the other. It says discard all edits. You can go show edits, like if you were editing a bunch of stuff at once and you didn't save it, right? Discard, just in case anybody's slow, I'm just gonna get rid of all these edits. And then super easy to do it again. Go up here, finish my polygon, double click. Clear it. and then I'm going to save my edits. Okay, and it's like, it asks a bunch of times. It's like, are you sure? Are you really sure? Are you super duper sure? Like, yes, we're super duper sure. Save these edits, that's fine. Okay. And now what I actually want to do is, because I want it to zoom in better, I'm going to right click and I'm going to go zoom to layer. Okay. I had to zoom out a little bit. Okay. So everybody has a polygon, at least a visual polygon, right? We can see this polygon on here at this point, right? Everybody here? Okay. Now let's add some information to this. So you're going to right click on your birds poly layer data set. You're going to open up the attribute table. Okay. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go up here to add field. I'm just going to go to add. And this is going to open up a new window that's like an editing window. And so we did this. We've done this before. I can't remember which lab it is, but we did do it. Maybe it wasn't even for lab. Maybe it was just when we had that screwy sort thing happening with our CRIMS 2021 hydro data. So what we're going to do is we're going to create, we're creating a field, right? And so remember, fields, these are our columns. And so what we're going to do is we're going to create a field called area. And so we're going to name this area, but let's do area and let's be specific. Let's do area in kilometers. Let's do area in square kilometers. Data type, we're going to pick float. Number format. Remember, this is if those of you that had trouble sorting your salinity data, that was because ARC wasn't reading the field in properly. It was reading it in as text.
Wait, I'm sorry. So I'm in the table and I just see 0, like one little polygon. So I'm like, I'm not seeing any of the stuff that you have.
That's probably because you haven't gone to add field yet. Unselected add field.
Okay.
But let me show you in 1 second once I finish this.
Okay.
So you have to go, so yours probably looks like this.
Yeah.
You're gonna go up to add. I'm just gonna press add.
Yeah, mine isn't lighting up. Like mine's gray. Like I can't click it.
Is it because you still have something selected? Like if you go up here.
No, yeah, no, it's not selected. Like nothing's blue and I pressed like clear on the attribute table, so nothing's selected, but it's still gray.
Did you save your edits?
Can you run me through that one more time?
You would just be, so I can't actually get there.
Okay.
Until
So
I
I'm on the
save this.
map.
But
I
up
have
here, oh yeah,
the-
up here you'd go to edit and you would have, so actually I can get there.
Oh, just edit and save. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, there we go. Okay, now it's popped up. Okay.
Perfect. Okay, and then you go to add field. And then you'll make this area square kilometers. This is going to be float. This is going to be numeric. We have options to do all of this stuff in precision and scale and length and things like that, but I'm not gonna fool with it. And for numeric, I said 2 decimal places. I don't know why. Let's just do 4. Normally I let it do 6. Let's just do 4 decimal places and we go to okay. And the only reason I could change that right now is because I haven't saved anything yet. This has to be saved as well. Okay. Has everybody gotten this part done? Populated their field?
Yeah, and what did you change in the number format? Did you change anything?
I just gave it 4 decimal places.
Okay, instead of 6.
It doesn't,
Okay.
yeah. And then there's a couple of things that you could do here. You could hop back over to birds, polygon, and you could go, and then this is going to change, and we could go to save. That's not going to work. We actually have to close this. So now let's close this. And it's going to ask us if we want to save it. We're going to go, yes, we want to save that. And then this editing view in the attribute table is going to close. And now we see that we have a new field, a new column in our attribute table that says area square kilometers. All right. So now what we're going to do is we're going to have our calculate geometry. And this calculate geometry tool is very, 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 very helpful. If you move points around, right, you have to calculate geometry. If you change the size, so let's say that you are you're merging some data, some polygons, and then you're extracting some. And so you had like a big polygon. Let's say maybe we had like a north, a south, and a west quadrant or something like that. Anytime you need new areas, you have to do this calculate geometry step, because if you don't, then that new geometry is not going to be changed in your attribute table. And so when I'm saying geometry, I mean things like X, Y, latitude, longitude, length, distance, size is what we're working on right now. So let's do that. So you're going to go over here to your area underscore square kilometer field heading. You're going to right click on that. And we've used the sort function here before. Now we're going to go down and we're going to use calculate geometry. It's so simple that it can actually get really messed up if you are frantic. So don't calculate geometry when you're frantic. Okay. So input features, right? Anything that we had over here, we could calculate geometry on, but obviously we're working in the birds polygons. But if we don't do this, but if I wanted to do the bird points, right? It would ask me, it's basically like, these are all of your field headings over here. What do you want to do over here? I don't want to do anything with that. I'm going to do birds, polygon, area, square meters, property. It's asking me what geometry are you asking me to calculate? And because it's a polygon, it knows that these are the options. All right. So we're going to go to area, just plain area. And then it's going to ask you what unit you want this in, because area can be calculated in lots and lots and lots of different ways. Which is why I specified area in square kilometers. Ma'am, miss, ma'am. So we're going to select square kilometers and the coordinate system. We have already assigned a coordinate system to this shapefile, right? So we should be able to just drop down and just grab that bird's polygon coordinate system, and it populates that with the NAD 83 zone 14. So once this is done, you're just gonna go okay, and it's gonna running. Great. And now it is telling me how many square kilometers this polygon is. You can do this with anything, right? You can do this with any type of vector data set, shapefile data set that you have. Raster data are different. Raster data don't quite work like this, right? That's more advanced stuff that we'll fool around with in lab 6 and 7. Definitely 7. But everybody should have an area calculated for their polygon now. Okay. All right. So now let's save this. I don't think we have to close it. We might have to close it, but I don't think so. Okay. So now when you guys are making your story maps, the way that that process works is you have to create, if you're creating a shapefile, you're creating a map, and let's say that you're creating a map and you have several different shapefiles in your map. That in general is how this will work. You're going to create a shapefile with your map, and then you have to pull those shape files. And increasingly, I think that there are capabilities, there are ways that you can actually pull a whole project into your content online, but that's really, really computationally expensive. And so they oftentimes won't let you do that. So what you want to do is you want to create your shapefile, you want to get your symbology exactly the way that you want it in ArcMap. Don't worry about a layout, don't touch a layout, don't do anything like that. You're just getting your symbology and your labels perfect in ArcMap. Save it, close it, and then you actually have to zip up those shape files and then pull them into ArcGIS Online. So ArcGIS Online is this. So type this in, and you guys will just be LSU-ITS maps. You might not have the home thing. You might just do this first part, right? Type this in, navigate there, and then it's going to ask you to sign in. So everybody just give me a thumbs up when you get to this page after you've signed in. And anybody that's catching up, feel free to ask questions.
Mine's not given an area. Every time I hit calculated geometry, it is just giving me a warning thing or a
What's the
yellow
warning
exclamation point. Saying skipping feature 0 because of null or empty geometry.
Show me your screen.
Mine did that, but I just cleared the bottom one. Oh, never mind.
You have something unsaved. So you need to save something.
It's all
Mhm.
saved. All I
It's
can.
not all saved. Close that out. I just saw the save button was an option. It's not saved. Yep, go up there to the top under insert on the ribbon, go to save. Yes. Okay. Now stop doing whatever you're doing. It's just gonna, you're just doing the same thing over and over. So your polygon hasn't been saved. Like whatever shape you made, like that's not finished. Because those dots should not be there. Right? That looks like you're still editing your polygon in there. I'm not sure. Yeah, that's not saved. Go to right click on bird poly. Let me go to source. Down, all the way down, properties, spatial reference. Okay, that looks fine. Close that out. Template properties. No. Yeah. Go to X, close that out. See if you can, yes, okay. Just draw your polygon again. And just get it approximate. It's really just so that you have something to work with. Yeah. And then connect your vertices.
You need to.
You just and so go all the way up at the top, yeah, and connect it. And so just double click.
Oh shit. Sorry, I didn't mean to say that. My
No,
fault.
we're all okay. But part of this, I remember you
I'm
having
trying to move.
trouble. Were you having trouble with this when we were trying to do something with GBIF? It's your mouse, dude. Like something is absolutely not okay with your mouse. So
No,
right
I
click,
moved it out. I moved it out the way on
but your
accident.
mouse always does this. It like multiple clicks, like freaks out. So get out of here. Yeah, get out of here. Go to map. You got to get out of creating features. No, go up on the ribbon, go to map. Okay. Now I want you to zoom to where you can see all of your points. Oh, it still thinks you're creating features. You want to stop.
What is
Okay,
that
fine.
doing?
Yes, fine. Stay there. Go all the way around. And just go slowly. Be chill. Connect it. Go to that. Yep. Double click. Okay. Good. Go up to clear selection at the top on the ribbon. Okay, it's cleared. Good. No, you're right there. Okay. Now, that first row you need to delete. Yes. Okay. Now, yeah, that should work. Try it. Okay. All right. You're set. Okay. Okay, so we're here, or we're getting there, right? Everybody signed in. You
Just to
have
clarify, did you want us to X out at the bird's polygon in order to save it, or just kind of just get out of ArcGIS and just open Chrome without doing anything?
no, just everything should be fine here. As long as you don't, this is all fine. Everything is
Yeah.
saved. Everything's fine. Yeah, we're fine.
Okay.
We might have to close our, I don't think we will. I can't remember if we do or not. So in here, you might have to go to like your profile or home or something like that, but you'll have all these tabs up here, galleries where we can look at story maps. If you go to map, y'all probably don't have anything there yet, but this is where you can actually create maps that will be interactive in your story map. Right? But in order to create, and so you cannot make an interactive story map in Arc Pro, right? You make your shape files and your files in Arc Pro, and then you have to bring those files in to your content into Arc Maps. So, and then you would build the map right here. So what we'll actually do, and note, I've added you all to a group. So if you go to groups, you should notice that you are in a group. You guys are in here, R&R 3004, fall 2024. You're going to go over here into content. And so what we'll do here is this is where we pull in all of our shape files. They have to be zipped up though, right? They have to be zipped up to import into ArcGIS Online, okay? So we're gonna go to our folder in R&R 3004, Lab 3. We are gonna zip up our bird polygon file. So select everything that's this bird polygon, control and unselect anything that has this lock on it, because that just means that it's open. Right click, send to, compressed folder, find birds polygon. I'm gonna actually name another name to this. I have one of these ready. Okay. So now you have a zipped folder. That's all this good stuff. You know how to make zipped folders. You're great. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to pull in that file. And so there are a couple of different ways you can do that. You can go up here to new item and you can pull in item from your device. Sometimes you can just pull it over. You can just drag that zipped folder over. But notice it's got a lot of different options. You can pull something in from OneDrive, from Google Drive, from Dropbox, right? It's pretty good at connecting to those different sites. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull it in from my device.
So we aren't including the locked ones in our zip file, right?
No, you can your file will not zip if you try to include those.
Okay. And then we're also not going to include the lab 3 that's open in ArcGIS currently.
No, you're not including the project. Just this bird's polygon. If you all get to the point where you need to do something with raster data and you want to if you create a raster file or you're using a raster file in your map, or there's any sort of raster data that you're using at all for your story map, you're going to have to do an extra thing because rasters are so big and they're so expensive that you actually have to compress it and you have to make something called a tile package. I'm not expecting anybody to remember anything exact about that, except that if it gets to the point where this happens and you're like ready to explode because ArcGIS Online won't let you pull in your data, it's just, you just have to make a tile package out of it and it's fine. Okay. So what's up?
And when I control and like try to unclick the locked files, it copies everything that's highlighted. And so I just end up making copies of every single thing.
Okay, why don't you just go ahead and close ArcMap then? That sounds like a setting on your computer. So make sure you
Okay.
save Arc Pro and then just close it. And you'll have to open it back up when we're done with this. But it sounds like it's either setting on your computer or you're going too fast and you just slow down and just click once. Not saying you are, but I've seen a lot of people are like, they just like frantically start clicking things and then it all goes to shit. So just slow down. But once that's done and you've got everything successfully zipped up, you're going to, you need to select this one. You need to create a hosted feature layer. And so you can just add the file, but adding a hosted feature layer, it basically just means that you have to add some metadata to it. You have to like enter in a couple of other things and explain it. And if it's anything that you wanted to add into a map, view a map, you need to create a hosted feature layer. So we're just going to select that, go to next. Title, tags. I'm going to add this tag R&R 3004. Summary. And you can just write R&R, you can just repeat it, right? R&R. Map test, okay? And and y'all may actually want to go up here and change the name. Like up here under title, you might want to make, because we've done this a couple times before and sometimes it's gotten a little squirrely. You want to come up and name it like Birds Polygon, like your last name or something, or your initials, something like that. Just add something a little bit more specific. Mine just says Fall 24. Don't name it that, because if we have a bunch of things that are named the same thing, it could get fussy. It doesn't like that. And I'm just going to go to save. I need to actually go through and delete all of this stuff. And this is what should happen if nobody else has your same name, right? Okay. Now we have something called a hosted feature layer. And so we can open this in map viewer, right? Which basically, like, we could go over to map and then you could add this layer in, or you can open it. Let's go up to map and let's add it in. So pop up to map. And we're going to add layers. And the only way that you guys can add layer, they have to be in your content, right? They have to be somewhere in ArcGIS Online. And so these are all the layers that I have made in this class, at least, right? Lots of different kinds of bird polygon. I'm going to select this guy.
Wait, which layer did you choose? The URL file or media?
I'm sorry, I have no idea what you're asking.
Oh man, okay. So you open the map, like mine looks like just like yours, but on the left side it says add. Like it says
Like
the
this?
layer button and then it has an add.
Just select add.
Oh, okay. I clicked the drop down, which is why it was
You would just
confusing.
go like from your content or whatever. It should be the only
Okay.
thing you have in here.
Yes, okay, okay.
And then we're just gonna go and we're gonna select it. We're gonna go to add. And it's keeping whatever default symbology whatever symbology that you had when you zipped it up, right? When you zipped up that layer, it keeps whatever that symbology has. And there's actually very little that you can do with symbology in ArcGIS Online. So make sure that you do all your stuff with your symbology before you zip it up. What's up? Nicholas, do you have a question? Because you're unmuted. Okay. Okay. So very little that we can do with this now, but this is how it happens. This is how interactive maps happen in your story maps, right? This is how this stuff gets made. So if you are rearing to go and get excited and you know what shapefiles you want to use already and you have the knowledge to work with them yet, I don't actually expect that any of you really do, unless your GBIF data for your map assignment are really getting you fired up, right? I don't expect anybody to really be there yet, but when you get there, you'll know what to do. You know, get your symbology sorted out, make your data, zip it up, pull it into your content in ArcGIS Online, and then you would name your map. So let's actually do this. Let's name this map somehow, right? Can I please just name this map? Go back. I want to name my map. Show properties, show table. Oh, and it will show the table. That's cool that it will do that. And so you have an attribute table that'll give you your shape area, shape length, right? Shape area, we don't know. This looks terrible, actually. What is that? Square kilometers didn't come over. Not the pain. So you can see it's limited, right? There's not like, oh God, oh boy. Oh boy. Back in. To you, please. Where are you? Awesome. Use. It just like totally disappeared. Oh my God. Did it disappear? It did. There you go. Why'd you go away? I'm sorry, they're like working on the plumbing underneath my house. It's insane for that. Okay, now I just want to
If you go to save it, you can add a title. If you go to save it, you can add a title on it.
Is that where it is?
Yeah.
Here she is. Save as. There we go. Super annoying. So let's name this Lab 3 Fall 24 test. Okay. I'm going to add those same tags. Summary. Thank you, Stephen.
No problem.
That would have driven me nuts for like hours. R&R 374, Paul. Save this map. Title. Remember whatever you named it, but that name is going to show up now. Okay. Okay. Name the map, save the map, close the map. Let's close this map. Ready? Close it. No, you cannot see my folder. So now what we're gonna do, your polygon is in the Atlantic Ocean. It must not have the correct coordinate system associated with it or data associated with it. You might want to try to remake it. Or just pull in something else that you have zipped up. I think at this point, Nicholas, just pull in something else that you have zipped up into your content so that you can move on to the next step. Sorry, bud. We'll get you figured out. Okay. Okay, so here we are. So now what we're gonna do is so what'll happen is you're gonna select a map, you're gonna select something, you're gonna make some polygons, you're gonna make a line, you're gonna make a route, something like that, and then you need to actually be able to find it. And so the most accurate way to do this would be to pull this into a Garmin and GPS device. But unfortunately, you guys don't have Garmin GPS devices available to use for a program. So what you're gonna do is you are going to download, you're going to go to the apps store on your phone, and you are going to search for ArcGIS field maps. And ArcGIS field maps, I don't know if there's any way that maybe I can unblur my background and then you'll be able to see. Yeah, that's what it looks like. So it'll be blue. It'll have some polygons on it. And what mine actually pulled up is it pulled up Survey 123. You're going to go ahead and download Survey 123 as well. It's going to ask you, you're going to sign in using your organization's URL. And so then you have access to this for free, which is amazing. So you're downloading ArcGIS field maps and ArcGIS Survey 123 because they both just kind of show up. So in the App Store, find those two. Let me know when they've downloaded and let me know when you opened up your ArcGIS field maps. Nicholas, how are you doing?
What was the credentials again? It was like LSU dash it.
ITS. Mm-hmm.
Okay. It says invalid characters. It's a dash, right? Or is it like an underscore or?
Dash.
Mine said that too. I automatically added a space afterward, and if you delete the space, it gets rid of that error.
You're so right.
Nice.
Okay. Okay, yeah, there we go.
Wonderful. Well, stay strong, Nicholas. Keep going. But honestly, I would just pull in something else that you have zipped into ArcGIS Online and save it and name it. Like you don't have to worry about recreating the polygon right this second. Just pull something else, like pull in bird points or something, right? And name it something else just so that you can move on to the next step if you want to. Because if you're trying rushing doesn't always go very well with us. I don't know what that means. Do you want to share your screen real quick and we'll see if we can figure it out while everybody else gets the program going?
So the website that we were just on, is that the thing that's going to make us be able to like, you know how there were those story maps where you could click or scroll and it would like bring you over to the next map point? Okay.
Yeah.
So our
that's,
final
you'll
product
be
is not
making
going to be that
maps. Like
polygon.
this is where you'll make the maps, but in order to do like that cool stuff, like the sidecars where you can swipe around and where it will zoom in and then it'll zoom out, that's a functionality that's in the story maps part, right?
Oh,
And so
okay.
basically, like you're going to make your map in there, and then you're going to open up story maps, and story maps going to be like, oh, here's your content, and you're going to add in your text. And I'm going to run you guys through an exercise where you're going to create a story map. You'll learn a ton about how to do this. Like it seems weird right now, but it's going to be way more straightforward.
Okay.
But you'll make your shape files, make them look beautiful in ArcPro, pull those zipped files into your content on ArcGIS Online, and then make your maps in ArcGIS Online, and then you pull those maps into story maps, right? So it's like a bunch of different things that you kind of use. It's kind of a pain in the butt. Nicholas, do you want to share your screen real quick? Or do you want to just suffer? Okay, gotcha. I respect that. Respect that. Okay. Okay, so all right, so now, actually, I don't think I need to share my screen really quick. Hang on. All right, so now when you get into your, and then, so you're gonna open up field maps. In field maps, it's gonna look something like this, right? It's not gonna look exactly like this because I have lots of maps in here already, but it'll look something like this. You're gonna have a search option, and you're going to search for the name of whatever you named that map. And so I named mine something like Lab 3. And then like an underscore. And it was like fall. Yeah, so I found mine already. I got Lab 3 underscore fall 2024 test. Open that up. And it's there. Look at my tiny little map. Right? GPS, my GPS accuracy is ranging from 6 meters to 4 meters, right? That accuracy is going to be really weird. The next thing that you need to do is, does it down, have you done this? That good? Oh, it's good. Now that when you find the name of your map, see those 3 little dots on the edge right there? Click those, and you might have to load it or download it. Mine's automatically downloading. It used to give you a hard time where you actually had to like download the map and do a bunch of weird stuff, but now we shouldn't have to do that, right? So I've just got this map, and you can actually navigate to where that is, right? So you can go, here's my map, you get yourself close, and then you could navigate to wherever that was. Second, what's your problem? You can share your map, you can change your base map. This is like my maps, current map. Hold on 1 second. I'm like moving really slowly. You can search for an address. Bird polygon, map layers. I know. Functionalities seems to have changed a slight bit since the last time I used it. Maps. Everybody, yeah, take a second. I'm gonna screw around with my phone for a second. Cancel. View details. Oh, because it's read only. Okay, that's fine. Okay. So once you all get your map to open, right on here, there's some limited things that you can do. You can obviously, like if you hit your location, you can see like how you can get there. You can zoom in, you can zoom out, you can select the polygon, and it's going to give me some information. It's giving me acres. It's not giving me, so see how I've selected it, right? See, it's the color of selection. I can ask for directions. There's a directions option now to wherever this feature layer is. It tells me how many kilometers away I am from it. All kinds of good stuff, right? But this is a really, really powerful tool if you just need to get somewhere, right? If you need to figure out where you're going, if you need to get onto your sites and you don't need it to be super duper accurate, right? Like if you need to be right on where your site is, then a phone is not the best way to do it, especially if it's in a remote area. Because remember how most of this stuff works, or maybe you guys, maybe you don't know how most of this stuff works, but the way that most of this stuff works is you have to have a minimum of 3 phones close so that they can triangulate the position. So if it's in a remote area and you don't have a whole bunch of phones, it's not going to work very well. Okay. Okay. Okay, so has everybody been able to find this map? Yeah. Okay. Okay, so this is helpful. You can create maps in field maps. You can find stuff in field maps. A Garmin is always going to be much better for accuracy, remembering that. Okay, so let's go and switch. You can close that. My phone battery is about to die, so I'm actually going to close that. Now, let's do the other thing. All right. So I was having jumping over here. Should we do? Yeah, it's fine. Let's do this. To create a shapefile in another program, right? So if you need something to be really accurate, not only are you going to use a Garmin for this, but if you need to plan something around imagery, like a route to somewhere where you don't know where you're going, you are not going to make this route in ArcGIS. ArcGIS and S3 does not have the best remotely sensed data available. The best remotely sensed data available is from private satellites. And so you would actually have to pay for those data. The next best is Google. So what y'all can do is you can check your hard drive and see if you already have Google Earth Pro downloaded. Most of y'all that are in the lab, well, you may, right? You may actually already have it downloaded. Does anybody not have this? And I'll walk you through how to get it. It's really straightforward.
I don't.
Okay, so you just go Google Earth Pro. It's going to take you to Google Earth. And it's going to ask you if you want to download it, right? Or you can just use the online version, right? And so this is what it's opening here for me, is this online version. It's signing me in under my Gmail account, right? And so actually this is mostly fine. This is mostly okay, right? And it actually has the thing that I've made before in here. And so that's something that we're going to do. So you can open it up online instead of downloading it. I'm going to open up my Google Earth. So you either need to download it or log in using your Gmail stuff. And I know not everybody has a Gmail account or has a Google Drive account, but at this point, most of y'all really should. So if you don't have that, now is probably not the time to necessarily create it. I kind of assumed everybody had a Gmail account. I probably should have asked. ahead of time. But I assumed too much. Oh, somebody just bailed. Was that poor Nicholas? Nicholas, are you still here with us or did you bail? All right, I'm going to show you what this looks like. Oh, you're still here. Good. I'm glad you're here. Okay. Okay. So when you open up Google Earth Pro, it looks like this. And you can do all of this in the online version as well. All right. Oh, that's awesome. I'm so glad it worked. You can do all of this in the online version as well, right? I'm going to do this in Google Earth Pro in the software that I actually have downloaded. So what I'm going to do is we're going to zoom in. I have a bunch of stuff on here already. We're going to zoom in and let's go home, right? Let's go to where you guys are in Baton Rouge on LSU campus. And you can actually go up here to this search button and you can, renewable natural LSU renewable natural resources building, go to search. It's going to zoom in. It's going to give us this big ugly symbology, but it's going to show us where our building is supposed to be, right? Okay, one thing that I want to mention, if you're ever going to use these maps, like if you want to submit a map on Google Maps, and obviously you can see, look how nice this imagery is. It's very, very nice imagery. It's very, very detailed. You can zoom in really, really far. You can see all sorts of weird things depending on who went by and what people were doing when all of this stuff happened and when the imagery was taken. And it'll have a date. Where are the dates of when the imagery was collected? Where are you? These are knowable things, right? So what we're going to do is we're actually going to draw a polygon around the LSU lakes, right? And so if we're looking, this is actually kind of cool because you can see where they're doing some construction. I don't know how the construction is going down there, but you can see some of the tracks of all the machinery that they have. So if you wanted to make a shapefile not in GIS, right, you would probably go to Google Earth. And the instructions that I have online are you doing something in like Maurepas, that's fine. If that's where if you're better able to keep up doing that, that's fine. But I'm taking you guys over just across the way at LSU Lakes. So the first thing that you want to do is you want to remove this tilt. If you guys have a tilt. So you'll go up here to tools. You're going to go to options. I don't have a tilt. It automatically turns it off. You'd go to, is it navigation or general? Yes, it's navigation. You'll go to navigation and mine says do not automatically tilt when zooming. Make sure that that is selected. Go to OK, close it out. Okay. All right. So we're going to make a polygon and then I'm going to have you guys do something extra and you're going to make a root. So notice these options up here at the top. We have options for adding place. That's basically like adding a point. It's a huge spider crawling across my computer. You are adorable. I wanted to crawl right across the camera. That'd be fun for y'all, but you can add a point, you can add a polygon, or you can add a root, right? This little line with like the vertices, that's your root, that's your polygon. The thumbtack is the place. We're going to select the polygon option and it's going to pull up what to me looks like an editing window, right? This looks like this. If this was ArcGIS, this would be an editing window. And I'm going to name this Big Lake, Big LSU Lake. All right. I'm not going to click OK because that would close it out. You can open it up again, but if you click OK, it's going to add it over here to your places and you just need to open it up and go to properties. Yeah, and then it'll let you add. And so check out what happens to your cursor, right? Your cursor is going to get crosshairs with like a little box around it. You're just going to pick any point around the lake and you have an option. You can click once and then go somewhere else and click again. But notice this doesn't make like smooth lines. So what you can actually do is just hold your cursor down and you can draw lines around. right? And of course, I'm not being exact. You get all the way up to the end, double click. All right.
Wait, how do I go back? I like accidentally moved my mouse and my line's across the screen.
You can usually just hit like delete or backspace for these.
Okay. Oh, just like
Otherwise,
okay, just on the keyboard. Okay.
yeah, it's a little, it's pretty straightforward, yeah.
Okay.
But then once you're done and you've double clicked it, you would go up to measurements, and it's going to give us some units already, right? It's going to tell us, you know, LSU Lake is about 3.5 miles in perimeter. And actually that's pretty accurate, because I don't know about you guys, but I used to run that big lake all the time, and it's just under 4 miles around that whole lake. So my shitty drawing still pretty close. And then the area, you know, it's about 1/4 of a square mile. Okay. And so we'll go to okay right there. And then we get this pan tool, the hand tool back. So now what we could do is, and what's really useful is if you want to like draw a route, right? And so you're a route, you're trying to give somebody a map. What I end up doing a lot is I'll have let's see if I have her on here. Here, let's see.
Okay, sorry. Once I finish drawing my map, how do I save it?
You just double click and then just go to okay. We should connect the vertices and then double click and then go to okay.
Okay.
So I'm going, so I'm just going to show you guys how I do. So I'm going to go to St. James Boat Club. So up here in the search engine, I'm going to St. James Boat Club. This is a boat launch on the Blind River. And this is something that we have to do all the time, because like if you're planning on doing some field work, you need to know how much gas you need to get around in your boat, right? You need to know how long your day is going to be, right? You need to know all kinds of important information to keep you safe and to make sure that you can get where you're going to get. So here's my St. James Boat Club, right? And let's say that I have field work and I want to go out into Lake des Almonds, and I want to get there, right? And so what I would do is I would do a route instead, and I would go, you know, Lake des Almonds, go over here, and I would go start there. And same, you know, if you just hold your cursor down, it makes this nice curvy route. I'm going to have to zoom out again. And so one of the kind of annoying things that happens here is like, notice I can't click to zoom out because I'm in this kind of image. So you could go to okay, you could zoom out, but you can also go over here and use these pan tools. And that gets you pretty close. And then you could start again. You just draw, right? Draw. You get the idea, right? And then when you're done, this isn't a polygon, so you don't have to connect your vertices. So you would just go, just check and see your measurements, check and see how far it is, go to okay. And like this is a canal, right? So obviously it doesn't have to be super insanely precise because you're not going to go outside of the canal. But let's say that you had a site down here, right? You would be like, I need to turn there. Or let's say that you had a site down here, I need to turn there. Or let's say that you were going through an area that was, you know, really difficult to navigate, and there were a bunch of shoals or islands or something like that. You would want to be more precise. You would want to take your time with it. You would want to get really familiar with the program and make sure that it was okay. So if you had a Google account, you can save this into your drive. Where it's going to automatically go is into your temporary places. Everything that we just made goes into these temporary places over here. You can save them into Google Drive. You could just grab it and you could just move it up into your places. I have all kinds of stuff in here that just don't pay attention to. So you could just grab this big LSU lake, pull it up under your places, grab des Almonds, pull it up under your places. The other thing that you can do is you can save this as something called a KMZ file. So select your big LSU Lake file, and I'm zoomed all away from there, so I'm actually going to click on that, and it's going to take me back over to LSU. And then I'm going to, now that that's selected, now I can do stuff. So I'm going to right click on that, and I'm going to go to Save Place As. And it's going to open up a new window, and it's going to let me save it in a lot of different places, but it's going to save this as something called a KMZ file. Okay, I'm going to save this in the Lab 3 folder. I'm just going to go, okay. Okay. If you had to close your Arc Pro program, go ahead and open up that Lab 3 project again. Just remember where that project actually lives. The project lives in your ArcGIS folder in projects, right? Don't move around projects. It's probably Lab 3. Mine's right here, right? That's where mine is. But opening up Arc Pro. Now we're going to go over here into our, I'm just going to close this create features tab because I don't need this. I'm not doing that anymore. Closing that. I'm going to go back up to map on my ribbon. I'm going to zoom out. Take a few minutes to adjust. Zoom in to Louisiana. Okay, so we can see our site over here in Texas, our bird points. Now what I'm going to do, this is the first time we're going to use anything in Arc Toolbox. All right. So if you open up your Lab 3 folder, we have all the stuff that we made already, and then we have this guy. We have this big LSU Lake file that has this little Google Chrome, Google Earth Pro icon. And it has, it says that it's a KMZ. I'm a KMZ file. That's who I am, right? That's great. So we have this KMZ file. Now we're going to use Arc. Well, you can't notice if we go over here to Lab 3 and we refresh it, right? We can't see, we can see this KMZ file, and it actually will pull in, but it looks bananas. So I'll pull it in and I'll show you guys what it looks like. Y'all don't have to do that, but you can, right? I'm going to pull this in, zoom to layer. We can kind of see it, right? But there's not very much that you can like do with it. It doesn't have an attribute table. It doesn't have anything associated. It doesn't have good information associated with it because it's not a real shapefile, right? So you can pull it in, but you can't do anything to it. So I'm gonna go ahead and remove that. Remove that layer. It's just a layer. And what I'm going to do is, for the first time, we're going to use Arc Toolbox. We're going to do some, it's not analysis, it's really just data management at this point. So we have this toolbox option up here under project that you can use, but I'm just going to go up here to analysis on the ribbon, and I'm going to select analysis, and I'm going to go tools. And then a new pane is going to open. It's our geoprocessing pane. We've used that before. You're going to go to toolboxes, and you're going to go into conversion tools. And this has a lot of cool options, right? So you can take tracks that you've saved on your GPS, and you can convert them into a shapefile. You can take points. You can take all kinds, you can go between, this allows you to go between ArcGIS software and a lot of different other data collection techniques, okay? So in this case, we have something called a KMZ. For all practical purposes, a KMZ and a KML are identical. Because if you're under here, under conversion tools, notice we don't have a KMZ option. We just have this thing called KML. I don't know why they haven't gotten this together yet, but KMZ and a KML are the same thing. So you're going to expand this, and it gives you a couple different options. It's like, do you want to go to a KML, or do you want to go from a KML? And we're going to go from a KML to a layer. So you're going to double click that. You're going to bring in this KML file or KMZ file from wherever you put it in lab 3. It's going to ask you where you want to put it, and it's going to try to put it in that project file. I'm going to put this in lab 3. And so I'm going to go big LSU lake in my lab 3 folder. Okay. Why do you still think you're not putting it in the right place? There we go. Okay, you actually had to select it, making sure that it's going into lab 3, naming it big LSU lake. Okay, and now we go
Wait, my
run.
screen does not look like yours.
Okay, what does your screen look like?
Mine, okay, so mine has input file, KML or KMZ. The next line says target folder. The next line says output name, and then the last one says output suffix.
We're doing the exact same thing. I think you might be just using a different version of Arc Pro than I am,
okay.
like very slightly, but your input file, it's the same. Your output location is in lab 3. Your output data name, that suffix shouldn't be, I mean, just assuming that you selected the right thing over here. It's KML to layer, right?
Yes, and then
Okay.
my target folder would be lab 3, and then output name is big LSU lake.
Yep.
And that's it. Okay,
Yeah,
great.
yeah, we're all just it's got like a little bit more detail on input.
Wait, how do you open the KML again? In ArcGIS? Like if
We're
I
not-
already have it, how do I just
We're not opening it. We're not opening
Oh.
it. We're converting it. So you've got to go to geoprocessing and you've got to go KML to layer, and then you're with us. Because you can pull it in and you can look at it, but it's not, you can't do anything with it. We actually have to convert it. So output location. Here, in 3. Okay. Data name, big LSU lake. I'm just gonna go run. And so this is creating a bunch of stuff. It's creating a polygon, and it's creating, it shouldn't be creating any polylines, but it should be just a straight up polygon. And notice that it's white, right? So you can't see it very well. It's there, right? So you would go, so we've got big LSU, like it looks terrible. Like KMLs, when they come in, they look awful. They look like this. We've got all this weird shit everywhere. We don't want any of this. We would have to go and change these data names. If you right click on big LSU lake and you go to properties, notice how it looks crazy. Like we don't actually have anything in here, right? If you go to polygons and you go to properties, you do have stuff, right? So this is like, okay, it's actually a geodatabase. It has gone and it has made it into a geodatabase instead of just a shapefile. Don't worry about exactly why that happens. Just like for our purposes, this is a pain, right? All we want is a plain, simple shapefile that is our lake, that we can calculate some area of, that we can edit an attribute table with, any of that good stuff. And this guy, you could actually, the one that says polygons, you could actually open the attribute table and look at it. And let's look at all the stuff that we have, right? We have some things that we don't need. We have some things that we don't know what they mean. We have some length, but we don't have units, and we have area, but we don't have units. We don't really have what we need from here. So what you have to do is you have to take that extra step that we always take to make sure that our data are clean, and you're going to export that data as a shapefile. So you're going to right click on that, and you're going to go to data, and you go to export features, an export feature class. Let's figure out where she is. And this is going to be, yeah. And so look, it has made a file geodatabase, which is kind of annoying, but it's okay. I'm going to go, and I'm going to name this Big Lake. And I don't need to worry about getting any error messages because I'm not making a geodatabase. I'm making a shapefile, right? And so just don't add anything to it. You could add the .shp Sometimes when people have trouble, that helps them, but right, we don't need to do any of that. Just big LSU lake, go to save. Environments, this output coordinate system, none of these are correct, right? So we actually do need to go and hunt down the right coordinate system for this. So we'll go to, I bet we can give her, let's go to a projected coordinate system. Let's do UTM. Let's do WGS 1984. Let's do, remember this is Louisiana, so this is zone 15. Go to okay. And this should be fine. But we'll see. If it looks crazy, it's because I gave it a projected coordinate system. I'm just gonna go to okay. I'm just gonna run it. Okay. So
Wait, what was the coordinate system again? You clicked polygons, bird points, or the bird polygon?
none of those, you have to go in and find it because we don't have anything in this map that is in the right coordinate system. So you have to go to projected UTM, WGS 1984, Northern Hemisphere, zone 15 north. Okay, now I have two files that look identical, but they're not. I have this big geodatabase in here, which has stuff in it, right? And like lots of different things. And then I have a more usable LSU lake file, right? Turn this one off. I'm gonna close this one. This one still has all this weird we have to do a lot of cleanup when we go from KMLs to shape files. So, but we can change the way that the color of this lake, right? We could give it, make it blue, right? So we can see it a little better. You could do all this stuff with roots. Now we can go in and we could add a field, right? And so this area, you know, in square miles or area in square kilometers, you know, square km. Remember how we changed this stuff. Mary, I'm just going to do 4 decimal places, fine. Close that, save it. Wonderful. And then you can calculate your geometry again over here. Big LSU lake, area square kilometers, properties area, units are square kilometers, coordinate system is big LSU lakes. This is all the reason I'm going through this so quickly is because we just did this earlier a couple times. And now it's going to give me the area in square kilometers, which is more usable than area in some units that I don't really know. So what we could also do is we can go in and we could clean up some of these fields that don't make any sense. You can delete them, right? You can clean up this table so this table looks more straightforward and makes a lot of sense. So in here, y'all will notice on slide 13 that I have this language right here that says, notice this is just a layer file. This is incorrect. And this is very newly incorrect, right? That's something that I just figured out literally just now, that this is not a layer file. It's actually going to make this into a geodatabase file, but it's in like a weird format, right? So just remember that if you're working with Google Earth, that you're going to have like some formatting stuff that you're going to have to deal with because like, you know, they never want to make it too easy for you to go back and forth between the programs. Okay. I feel like everybody, I always think this lab is going to be easy and it's just not easy. There's like so much to do. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to stop here for today. And what I want to do, we'll kind of revisit this on, I tell you what, if you think that you're the kind of person that might use Google Earth, Google Earth has an app as well, right? It looks like that. And you can always open up if you don't. So if you like lose your license to Esri, right? What you may want to do is you may want to create a more intense Google Earth account. And then you can find some places, you can find your projects, you can you can do all kinds of cool things, and you can do all of the stuff that we have done with field maps on ArcGIS, and you can basically do all of that in Google Earth on your phone and have better imagery and better routes. It's just like the interface is less user friendly. And it's harder to make the symbology look nice and things like that, right? So, and you would need a Google Earth account and things like that. So, it's just 2 slides. I feel like we should just do it. No, we're not going to do it. We'll do this next week. We'll do the survey 1, 2, 3. We'll do this next week. You have an account. We'll start here next week because that editing lab is quite short. And I know you guys are all tired from all of this back and forth and everything. Okay. So let's stop. We're going to start here on slide 15 next week. We won't actually need this Arc Pro map at all. You don't have any homework assignments associated with this. This lab, however, is important for your next map assignment. Okay, so if you struggled and you need to redo it, go ahead, redo it, get through it, do all of those things. Otherwise, does anybody have any questions? Everybody's brains are just toast. Everybody's okay with the map assignment. Already asked about that. You guys are moving forward. That's fine.
Mr. Mark.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Can you hear me? Sorry, I'm lagging a little bit.
Yeah, I can hear you.
What was the area of the square kilometers for the lake?
It depends on what you drew. They're all gonna be different.
I'm lagging. I'm gonna type it.
Mine was 0.6. Yeah, if y'all are done, feel free to go and I'll see you next week. But this is what mine looks like. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's all good. Bye.